All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, in today's episode, we are talking to recent graduate of the online summit program, Mish. And she talks us through her story of completing and conquering the Oxfam 100. Now, for those who haven't heard of the Oxfam Trailwalker before, it is, and the Oxfam 100 specifically, is a 100-kilometer hiking event done over 48 hours. So it's a massive, massive, massive hiking challenge. And inside this episode, Mish shares some insights around her preparation, her training, her journey leading up to this amazing event, and exactly what happened and the things she experienced when she was actually on the trail. So this is a fantastic episode for anyone who may be considering a big challenge hike somewhere in the future, and also, of course, people who may be looking at tackling the Oxfam. So really hope you enjoy this. So let's get into it. Hey, my name is Rowan Smith, and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast, which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare, and conquer your upcoming hike, trek, or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude, and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable, and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. All right. Hello, Mish. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you on.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
No, this is going to be absolutely awesome because I'm really looking forward to this because I think you've gone through such a really interesting journey and a really awesome goal you've just completed. And I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic for so many people listening. So to dive right into it, we'll just sort of start with a little bit of background. And yeah, you just want to share sort of where you're from, what do you do, and what is your background in hiking?
Look, I've just had an interest in hiking, I think, since a teenager, really, and the love of nature. I've probably back into the outdoors and bushwalking, and then some elevations, I guess, and so a bit more hiking, I guess, in the last 5 years. So since 2018, almost, yeah, probably a bit longer now. So it was a good therapy place for me. So and yeah, so that's my background. And by day, I'm an accountant, full-time working, and single mum now. So it's been, yeah, it's trying to fit that joy and that that happy place for me whenever I can. So that's where I've come from with this. Yeah.
And when you first started working with Summit Strength, what was the big goal that you were kind of looking to train for?
So the big goal for me was to walk the Oxfam Trailwalker event. So it's a 100-kilometer charity event, so raising money for poverty. It's been a goal for a long time. I had an old colleague friend who had come past and said probably that 5-6 year mark again. She sort of said, she'd done it, I think, 5 times and volunteered 3 of the times, and I was just like, that sounds like an awesome thing to do. And so I used to always keep an eye out for the trail maps and where it was actually going. And in the past, it was previously on a lot of it ended on a lot of path, and wasn't sort of a lot in the forest areas and that sort of thing that I liked and enjoyed, the trails. And then last year, I'd immersed myself in a lot of bushwalking meetup groups and sort of went out with them. And then I thought, well, I'll start sort of training for this. And, with the hope of, and I actually thought it was in October this year, the following year. I didn't realize it was in March. So when I immersed myself, it was in October, last year. And then the trails the maps had come out and they said, look, we've changed the trails. It's going to be a lot more elevation. and it's all the way through the forest here in the Dandenongs here in Melbourne, in Victoria. So I was like, this is it. This is the time. I've got to do this because this is what I've always wanted to do. I wanted to do it on a trail that was on a really nice place, and then challenge myself to try and do some extra elevation. So that's how I started. When I that was the mindset and where it all sort of was birthed.
Yeah, absolutely. And just out of curiosity, what was the kind of, I guess, inciting incident that made you reach out to Summit Strength? Obviously, you had this big goal in mind. Like, what kind of made you, reach out for extra help with your training?
Look, I was scrolling through. I think it was Facebook. It was some marketing that had come through, and I'd seen Summit Strength, and also went to over the New Year period. I'd actually gone through. I think, Rowan, you've been sort of through the hiking community. It's and you've actually been, your name's out there. And there was this woman who said to me, oh, we've all got pains and stuff, and we were all talking about it over the New Year's when we went for this group camping, hiking adventure. And this woman said, oh, there's this guy that does, specific training for hikers. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I had that sort of in the back of my mind. And then I'd also started thinking, oh, I'm going to do some training and I'll try and do the actual trail myself. And then I was having a lot of pain. So there was a lot of knee pain, a lot of all that sort of stuff, and had started rearing its head. I wasn't recovering. I just needed strengthening, I thought, from sort of past experiences in sort of doing some sort of fitness or whatever. It was always like, you need to do strength work and work on the muscles and all that sort of thing. But just needed a plan and a map and an outline of what to do. And then, like I was looking through Facebook, and this had come through, and I thought, look, I'll just reach out and see what you guys do and what this is all about. So that's how I arrived at your doorstep. And it was interestingly, I'm reading something else at the moment. I'm reading a book, and it's saying about on a different matter that I'm trying to sort of work on, and it's talking about having these three things, and it's having the coaching, community, and commitment. And I thought, geez, that's exactly what I have really got from the Summit Strength thing. When I engage that, it's like the coaching, obviously that physical coaching, and also the emotional support, the community, and then my commitment to it as well. So, this is where I sort of realized that was the key ingredient that sort of helped me along with trying to achieve this for myself.
And then let's talk about your training a little bit then. So you've gone through this, you sort of decided, you know what, I'm going to sign up with Summit Strength, get a little bit of extra help for all leading into this, this big adventure. Can you just tell us a little bit about, what your training looked like, and, what did your actual program look like?
Yeah, sure. Well, all I could really commit to with kid schedules and all the various with life in general and full-time work was, I said to yourselves and Andrea, Coach Andrea, I said to her, look, it's probably 30 minutes, in the morning. I'd prefer, that would be my preference. And then the other times to do the hiking. So the training was generally, like, to break it down, it was just sort of 2 lots of strength, 2 lots of aerobic sort of work, and then mobility pretty much every single day. So, and that mobility was there deliberately, I think, to help me in terms of the pains with knees and all that sort of stuff, and loosening things off all the time and periodically and consistently. With the other components, it was what I found with the whole program was, I remember reading somewhere through the Facebook group when a woman had posted saying, look, she was off on her adventure, and I couldn't agree more with her, where she was just like, late at night, early in the morning, whatever you can fit this in, you do it. And that's where that's what it was for me in the end. And I was like, at first I was a little bit scared, thinking, I'm just going to be loaded with all these, this schedule of, extra stuff that I needed to do. And it really wasn't. It was, it was just like, I need to do this, this event, but it was like, it wasn't as taxing as I thought it would be. It flowed quite nicely, and a lot of the training that you guys set up for us it's got to be, how could you say, like, it's nonstop, but it's not as, you're not completely wasted at every point in time, and it's done. You sort of tick it off and you get it done, and it really does fit into a lifestyle for me. So yeah, the training was, like I said, a strength work, and then the aerobic work. In terms of, for me, it was, I've got a spin bike at home, so that's what I used here, and the stairs as well, and the mobility. I had to sort of source a few extra things. Some of my equipment was a little bit raggedy, so I had to go and get new TheraBands and some other things, which was nice to get new sets of little equipment, and it wasn't too expensive. It was quite, very reasonable to go and grab some stuff, and just, have them in place, and then sort of have a play with them and do them as I was going. I think a lot of the videos really helped, but also I think I've told you, Rowan, at some point, it's like, it's good to watch it right to the end, not thinking that you know what it is. So for me, that was really, really key with those videos and those exercises, and you do it in your time.
And then through all of that, like, was there anything in there that was, I guess, a little bit different than, that you'd potentially done before or explored before?
Yeah, definitely. I guess it was the, I've done versions of a lot of these sorts of things, but in classes, and done a lot of personal training, I guess, specifically for things. So overall, specifically working on areas to target, to better improve knee mobility, ankles, calves, strengthening, your foot, all that sort of stuff, your feet in terms of plantar fasciitis, that sort of stuff, working with all of that. So those sort of the exercises that I was doing, I was expecting I was going to be doing a lot of quad work, a lot of squats and that sort of stuff. There was some of that, but not to the extent that I thought it was. Was doing some, like I said, with the TheraBands around the knees. What else? And a lot of I'm not too sure how to say, but they're not hardcore exercises, if you like. They're very, very subtle movements and very conscious movements that we need to do with these exercises. So, the morning routine ones, we sort of, before we start, we're doing those are, I think, more critical, and that's the thing that I wasn't doing a lot of, and or anything like that at all. And I think that was really critical in terms of just getting the body moving and doing, and not doing, it wasn't sort of, I think that's what you advocate a lot in. It's not about just walking that's going to get you to your destination with this sort of stuff. It's about all this lead up and this build up, this slow build up of strengthening and exercises that will help. So that was the difference, I think, with all the those initial exercises that you need to set yourself up, was quite different to what I was doing, rather than just hitting the path or hitting a trail, and then going, okay, I'm not getting any better. I've got calf pain. I've got whatever. I'm blowing out. My chest feels like it's going to explode at the top of the hill, or whatever it is. So, all these other little exercises that seem so subtle, but were really critical.
And then Obviously, with any kind of training journey, there's ups and downs, and there's all of this. And I know for your particular journey, in the training side of things, there was definitely a few bits and pieces that kind of came up along the way. So yeah, do you just want to talk us through that? Like, were there any particular roadblocks that you want to talk about that came up during your training process, and how did you go about, I guess, overcoming them when they did come up?
Yeah, sure. There was plenty of roadblocks. I think probably at every juncture there was a roadblock. Um, it was full on. But I think something that you said at the onset was like, can you commit to communicating? And I think you say that in a lot of your videos as well. It's like, communicate with us, communicate with us, communicate with us. So, the roadblocks from physical pain, scheduling issues where I, just haven't got time. I'm running out. I've got my kids at certain times, and then they've got their school things going on. I've got my work that I need to tend to. All these things were coming up constantly, and life, just life admin and things that you need to do and get done every time. And managing those fears, the freak out of that. I was, I copped a lot of blisters that I didn't know how to cope with. It was like, how do I, do I have the right shoes? How do I work with the gear that I had? Even building a team to walk Oxfam, you need to have a team of people as well. They were really experienced in terms of, well, some were really experienced with walking actual different Oxfam trails and events, and others, the team that I eventually walked with, they were very experienced mountaineers, boulderers. They had a lot of experience in terms of walking distances and crazy elevations and all that sort of stuff. So this was something they were just wanting to sort of tick off, but for me it was a bit more than that. And so all of dealing with that sort of thing with everything that came up, and how do I manage that? How do I manage myself in that situation? And then communicating that with you guys at every single point. Also, the roadblocks leading up into the event ended up with a virus, was quite run down and everything, and I was getting quite feverish and hot, and I thought, geez, this is going to be the kill switch for it all. If I get a temperature, if I'm getting a fever, it's like all of this is gone to waste or whatever. So it was about reaching out to the community and reaching out to you guys, the coaches, and just kept saying at every single point, what do we do? I know we had a 35-day plan. We had to replan out because I was getting a lot of knee pain, even though I was doing a lot of bike work. And it was like, oh, okay. And then simple tweaks, Andrea kept reminding me, just adjust your seat, or do you have a look at this, or have you looked at that, very gently and very, just sort of guiding me along and listening to my concerns about, like I said, the team structure and who's, how we're going to form, if we're going to form, how do I walk faster? If I, do I need to walk faster? How do I do that? Or, and also reaching out to the Summit Strength community, people in the, people see you on the coaching calls, and then you start making friends. And that was incredibly invaluable. So you sort of, you're like, oh, I see a friend in the distance there, a bit like when you're on the trails, you're like, there's a person, there's one of my people, so that was incredibly helpful as well. Like, they just reach out and sort of go, hey, going, just do you, I've done this as well, or whatever it may be, some blister advice, or torches. I asked about torches as well when walking through the night. I was a little bit afraid of how I'd cope with that. The demons in my, in your own mind as well about, am I going to cope with this mentally? Feet swelling during hot times when I was training at night. And, there's so many things that I can, that come up. And it's just, take it literally day by day, moment to moment. And then working through, trusting the process was the biggest thing with yourselves and everything. For me, it was like, Michelle, you've been guided. Well, I think, a little bit esoterically being guided to work with this program and work on this program. Everything's kind of falling into place. It's not linear, as you've said in one of your videos. Life's not linear. I know that for sure. It zigs and zags, and it goes around up and down, and you just find a way to just manage every little peak and trough. And to me, it's synonymous with hiking as well, and walking, trail walking. It's a lot like that. You sort of go, oops, I didn't expect this to happen. So it's like, how do I manage this now? Who do I reach out to? What can we do? Lots of incredible experiences along the way, and that's what I've enjoyed probably just as equally as much as the event, were all the roadblocks and how I was able to manage that and trust the process and lean into that, and then just go quiet and work on it, and see where it takes me. And then the next day you wake up and it's like, okay, that's eased off. Or when I just tweaked that a little bit, that worked better. Or went and reached out and got a different pair of shoes, or different socks structure, whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you kind of touched on, like, through there, you sort of said it a couple of times, the communication factor. And it's something we stress so much through the process. And I think in the first week of someone joining up with us, we probably say it like 10 times in different situations, just saying, if you can keep communication open, we can work around anything. And Mish, like, in your particular journey, I think, full credit to you that you did do that. There was a lot of things that came up. There was aches and pains, there was busyness, there was getting sick, there was blisters, there was the questions and this and that. But the fact that you kept that communication open, you reached out for help. Full credit to you, because it helped us work around it all. So it's such an important thing in a process like this. So I guess now that we've talked about the training, let's talk about the event. So the Oxfam 100, which, for people who may not be in Australia, 100 kilometers over 48 hours, pretty challenging thing. Talk to us, like, how did the actual event go? You did your training, you got out on the trail. Talk us through it. How did it all play out?
Yeah, it was. I loved it. Absolutely loved the event, and I kind of thought it was a bit synonymous to wedding planning. It's like you try everything, and now it's just go and enjoy, have fun. That's what I thought to myself in the end. It's like you've got to I had to get to that point where it was like, I've done everything I can possibly do at this point. It's not perfect at any stretch, I thought. I had huge doubts going in that week. And then I had a friend, colleague who, a mature person that's actually done a lot of this sort of event work, and done a lot of, Ironmans and Kokoda and all these sorts of things. So done a lot of tough stuff. And the day before, he was talking to me about it, and like I said, before I had a virus, it came through on the Saturday night. I was doing a little bit of last minute training and stuff, and then the event was on the Friday, and then it was just progressively getting worse, and I was getting, a little bit more fatigued, more run down, a little bit hotter, and then I just thought, I listened into the education piece about, the week leading up, or the weeks leading up to an event or an adventure, and that you've put out, Rowan, and listened to that a few times and thought, okay, well, this is quite normal. This is what happens. It's just everything, the build up of trying to wind down for work as well, getting everything done, getting the kids sorted, getting them looked after, make sure everyone's in their places, ready, basically ready to go for the event. And then so the day before, 2 days out, actually, I walked the kids to school, and I was really hot and puffed. And I reached out to Coach Andrew, and I said to her that, I go, look, I'm worried, and then she said, look, do you think you should go and see a doctor, now? And I was like, didn't like her, wasn't happy with her saying that to me, because I was like, I know I'm scared of what this doctor's going to say, So I parked that for a bit, just got stuck into my work a bit more, and then I tested for the other things that you could get tested for, just to make sure it wasn't any of that. And then I thought, I sort of said to Andrew as well, I was like, I've got no time to go and see a doctor now. There's just too much going on, leading up to all this, and having all the food packed and my gear, and making sure that was all in place as well. It's huge logistics to get all this going. And also the support crew. It was like making sure they're okay, so they know where to meet me, what they were going to do. And I had the most amazing support crew ever. And again, that was, for me, that felt quite serendipitous, but they were quite laid back. It was just, towards the time of the event leading up to it, it was people were all like, oh, wanting to have a chat about it. And I'm like, I'm just freaking out. I've got so much going on here. And went to the doctor, and they said to me, sorry, I'm not answering the question, I guess, totally, but it's straight up, but the lead up to it. And the doctor had said to me, look, your blood pressure's really low. I think I'll get this, I don't know if I'll get this the right way around, but it was 90/70. I just remember the figures, but I don't remember which way it was. And he was like, and he got out his old, the old machine and equipment. It wasn't even, I thought, oh, this guy's, I wonder if this guy knows what, and he's like, why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? And I'm like, oh, do you want to walk? Why? And I'm like, yeah, just check me out, So he checked me out and did the blood pressure thing and told me that, and then said, you need to get, you're hydrated, and you've got a very inflamed throat. There's this, you've got to get onto getting some, cold and flu tablets into you, and that sort of stuff, and lozenges, that sort of stuff. So he said, if you're feeling fatigued, that's when you're gonna, I'm not telling you not to do this, but if you're feeling fatigued, you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to stop this tomorrow. I said, okay. So I was like, okay, he didn't say that I couldn't do this. It's like, all right, I'll get onto strategies to get hydrated, and get this blood pressure going again, and get some electrolytes in me, or whatever it needed to be. Anyhow, so I got down to my friend's place where I was staying the night, so that I'd be closer to the event start place, and then a location. And then we started. Things started to settle down once I made the move. Like, I was starting to had everything packed and everything. The body started feeling a little bit better, and also in the lead up to it, because I didn't end up doing any more training. It was a taper week, and I just sort of thought, embrace this week, because it is a taper week. And I think you said, Rowan, as well, it's like, if you miss some of these things, don't worry about it. Don't worry about doing any more full-on training now. But the body was feeling really good in terms of no aches and pains. There was nothing of the sort. And I thought, well, this is a good tick. This means that this is working. This program's working. And the way that we strategized this was really, really good. And so event day comes along. We rock up, and there was a few little admin hiccups. It was really great. It was like the atmosphere started building when you saw everybody, the lights and the torches and the sunrise and everybody, the big event banners and all the rest of it. It was just really exciting. And then a couple of little hiccups with admin for some reason. I don't know. That was just, I think that was on their side. So we started, we pushed off a little bit later, but nothing that was significant. And so then I started, and we had a bit of a group meeting as well the day before. And I was panicking, because again, these guys had been real seasoned, trail walkers, whatever. And I thought, no, just do you. I think, again, Rowan, you gave us the advice of conserve your energy the whole way through. That's what you need to do. And there was a plan. I had a plan. I had to work to each checkpoint. And and it was just, and then manage myself at every single checkpoint and go from there. So got on the trails, and it was just euphoric for me, because it was like everybody was doing the same thing. And we're all pushing off and people cheering on the sides of the roads, older folk, we've got school kids, and it was just so encouraging to be there. But the biggest takeaway for me was finally not walking alone. It was so nice to be with the same people, that they must have been doing the same thing, either training or whatever it was, or anticipating this or whatever it may be. But that was the beautiful thing. And we were just marking off these checkpoints like nobody's business. It was just, I was like, wow, we're going at a rocket speed here at the moment. We were an hour in front of our schedule. The first checkpoint, I must admit, I was feeling a little bit sick. I didn't get my electrolyte mix or whatever it was in my water bladder right. It was too sweet and all that sort of stuff. I still had the sore throat going in. I was feeling a little bit dizzy and lightheaded. And then I just sort of thought, okay, I'll manage that with, I need to get some solid food into me, because you're starting off really early in the morning. So that was really, and then I did that. And then it was like, all right, we'll just keep walking, see if the body starts getting used to it. No pain. And then at 30K, the 30K mark, it was like, my body's feeling really good and this virus is gone. It's lifted. It was incredible, like just a phenomenal feeling. And I thought, I can really maybe do this. I'm like, okay, we'll just keep going to the next checkpoint, and then those wretched blisters started appearing. And that was probably around the 42K mark. And I think I might have been trying to overcompensate with them a little bit with the with my walking gait and the rest of it. And that was from what do you call it? And then my hip was quite sore. But then, stopped at the checkpoint for 45Ks and tried to fix for the blisters. And I don't know if that was a good thing or it was a bad thing, but there was a lot of pain there as well. So it's just like, okay, I'll just manage them as best as I could. And then sort of, again, rolling out the hips and trying to use the techniques that, we need to do on the trail, like when you've had a flare up. I kept thinking all that in my mind, stretching out and doing all those sorts of things during the breaks. I had a very persistent, like I said, I've said to many people, I felt like I was the sled and everyone else was the snow dog. So the other two that I was walking with, they were the snow dogs. But I just kept thinking, I've just got to go at my pace. And if they wanted to walk off, then that was what was one of my biggest fears. They're welcome to, but they just need to communicate that with me and whatever. And they said, no, we're fine. Just as long as, if you're, I think we had this kind of agreement that, like every time they stopped and waited or whatever, someone said to me, they're recovering during that period of time. So that was good for them. But I kept going at the same time with them. So I didn't sort of make them stop even longer again. So I think they appreciated that. So that's where we had this, and I had this mental game in my head as well, like, letting people down. I don't want to be doing that. I feel really, taking on all of that sort of thinking in my mind during the actual walk. But then, I sort of said, well, look at what gratitude you can bring to this from their end, because one of the walkers, he was quite he was very confident and very forthright with what he was when he was communicating, and it was just like, okay, well, what do we what can I see that he's really bringing to this? And that was, he was setting the pace, and we had a joint motivation, and that was to finish this with and doing it completely without too much rest and just doing it through. So we got to the 60K mark, which was it was nighttime, and then we had a hot food feed, and our support crew, like I said, were just incredible. I had two different sets of support crew. One was a hot food person, and then the other one was a He was there at every single stop for us. And it was just magical that he'd just roll out everything for us and all the chairs, and we'd sit down for a brief moment, adjust ourselves and fix ourselves where we could. But at the 60K mark, it was like I knew that last 40 was the harder bit. This is where we were summiting Mount Dandenong, and it was relentless. It was just on and up and on. That was the biggest parts of the elevation was there, and it was just continual. But funnily enough, we pushed off again, I think at about 10 o'clock that night. Actually, Coach Andrea, I hadn't met her in person, and she lives around the area, so she came and dropped by, which was amazing. And someone had said, this is the harder bit, and then she acknowledged and she said, look, she's trained for this. And they were just invaluable words for me, because it was like, okay, thank you. You've got faith in me as well. It's like, I can do this. We can get through this. So, so we started summiting, and we got to the base actually, and it was really dark. We lost track of some of the markers partway through. And so we went off trail for, I think, maybe a kilometre. One of the guy that was walking ahead, he was just like, oh, he goes, we've gone too far. And I'm like, oh no, I hope it's not like 5K. That's just crap in this event right now. I don't want to hate going backwards. So anyway, so we backtracked, and he was really good with reading the maps and stuff, and said, oh no, I think it's only 800 meters or whatever, or a kilometer. So I'm like, that's not too bad, that's good. I lost a water bottle at one point as well. Someone had said that they seen it, one of them in my vests I'd lost, and that was it kind of threw me a little bit as well. It was just funny because I just realized how much mentally that threw me, because that was my clean water. Everything else had something in it, and I was like freaking out at one point, going, well, it's okay, you can work it out somewhere, there's water stops or whatever. But it's funny how that plays on your mind as well. So leading up to the summit, I had too much gear on me. I had too much stuff on me. Like I said, the water bladder with the electrolytes in it in my backpack, in the actual back of the vest. I had a belt as well with stuff in it, and the guys who actually my team had said, Michelle, you got too much. You need to offload. Let's just tip some of this stuff out. And I have even a Powerade bottle as well at one point. And they're like, we'll take this. You just, because we're climbing now. So that was really invaluable from them to do that with me. And so we climbed. We had some rope sections in the middle of the night. It was just, 12 o'clock at night or whatever. We're climbing all these. It was just so much, to me, that was so much fun. Like, you could never do this at any other time with the SES there, having everything lit up and safe for us to climb and go through. So we got up to the top of Mount Dandenong, and then I was like, one of my friends had said, the support crew had said, 28 Ks to go now. And I was like, oh, it was like someone had said to me it was a kilometre away. The amount of energy in your mind, and in actual fact, that's another 6 hours of walking. But we were just like, for me, it was like someone said it was 15 minutes away. And so you get so excited. We had some, huge momentum on the trail at that time of night. It was like this echelon of people just charging through. Everything was quiet, just torches, and everybody just doing the same thing. And it was just amazing. But if you stopped, you lose people really, really quickly, which was something that I never thought would happen. I thought, we're all keeping pace or whatever. And then that was a point in time, I think it was 3:45 in the morning or something, and it was starting to get really cold. And we were right in the depths of the mountains there, and my virus had started to reappear a little bit. My watch battery was failing. And my team had gone up ahead a little bit again, but then I was sort of hanging back. and then it was like I had a bit of a meltdown there. I was like, I grabbed my poles and I was like, this is just cruel. I know that they could have given us a different side of this track, but it just keeps going, and going. And it and because I had all that in my head where, you see the marker as well, 75 Ks done or whatever, and you're like, we're close, we're really close. Where's the next checkpoint? It was me yearning for this next checkpoint and not seeing it. And then just seeing some torches way in the distance. It was just like, where is this place? Where is it going to stop? I can see these bright lights. It's so, it's so dark out here. Anyway, so I pushed through and then was working through some techniques at that point. I think I've mentioned this before, but it was sort of that square breathing, Rowan, that you had taught about, in terms of that was to actually relax yourself. And I was using a different technique with I think with Courtney Dauwalter's thing that Kyle had actually mentioned about her in the pain cave. And I thought, I just couldn't do any more pain at that point. I was like, I don't want to do any more pain. I don't want to do any more pain. I was like, I just need to just get up this. And as I stood there sort of going, cursing them, going, you could have done a different track here for us, I thought to myself, hey, you know what? You got yourself here. You're the only one who's going to get yourself out of this, let's do this, and you wanted to do this. So I did the square breathing and I was just like, and as I, every footstep, it was just doing, 4 inhalations, 4 exhalations, and then just doing right around. And then before I know it, I was sort of, you're climbing, and then I was up the top of that set of hills, or that top of the mountain there. And then, but then I was again disappointed, because I was like, hang on, I thought that the checkpoint was here. I was totally disorientated where the checkpoint was at that stage. And I was like, because I knew that we were close to finishing by then. And then descending the hill was the next bit, and descending the mountain was the really, really tough bit for me. And that's when so yeah, I had sort of that virusy thing going, and all the batteries, everything sort of not working, and not knowing the time, not knowing where the finish was. My team had sort of gone, we can't wait, here, we'll meet you at the bottom, but just, we can't wait because we'll seize up. And I'm like, yeah, just keep going. And then my knee started, body was great all the way through. And then the knee decided to, I don't know what it was, to be honest. In the end, it was just an incredible pain that I hadn't experienced before. And I was like, what is this? And then I thought to myself, how am I going to get down this? And I couldn't do what they were doing. They were doing this sort of shuffle down or whatever it was. And I remember from listening to the education pieces, like, what can you do? You can go sideways, you can do all these different techniques, but couldn't work through that. I thought that those things weren't working for me. And all I thought was, well, you're not engaging your muscles, Michelle. Like, which muscles are you not engaging here? Like, you're putting pressure on your knees here somehow. What's going on? Engage your bum. You need to engage those glutes, that we always talk about with the heel downs and that sort of stuff. And I thought, okay. And it worked to didn't totally get rid of it, but I managed to shuffle my way down, and just sort of switching the focus onto, and that reframe. And it was like, switch it to engaging the right muscles, get that, what did you train? You've trained for this, where, this is the time to start figuring out how you're going to, find a way through this. And I got to the end, I was teary-eyed, and the woman was like, this is your last one, and I walked through that checkpoint, and she's just like, it's the last one. I looked at her and I go, that was brutal. It was just brutal for me. Had something to eat, something light to eat, and I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning by that stage. And then I started thinking to myself, this is it. We've almost done this in time that I never thought we would ever get it done. Like, it was still dark. And I thought, geez, I was expecting to do this in 30 hours or so or whatever, but to do this in this time. So we pushed off again, had to really nurse the knee. There was a long, long stretch home. That was an incredibly long stretch. It was quite annoying, to be honest. But yeah, you across the road at one point where the SES were again, and they were sort of ushering us over and they're saying 5Ks to go. And I was like, okay, and then got quite emotional, and I rang my brother at that time because he'd helped me with some night training. And then he's like, "Are you okay? Are you know?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes." And he's like, "Just keep going. I want you to finish." And I'm like, "No, no, I will." I'm just, just a bit elated and emotional with it all. And then we got to the end. Yeah, so it was daylight. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning when we crossed over, and yeah, and then friends were like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Get these shoes off. I'm so over, these blisters and stuff." So anyway, that's a very long story about the journey. Anyway, with the event. Sorry,
How
Rowan.
good. How good. So, it sounds
Are
like you
you
just
awake
went through
still?
it. I absolutely am. I absolutely am. And it honestly sounds like you went through a bit of everything there, which is yeah, how good. So talk me through, I want to dive into as you cross that line. Let's dive into that a little bit more. You crossed the line, obviously you said you want to get those shoes off, but just how did you feel with the culmination of everything just getting through the end? What was going through your head at that stage? And then I guess afterwards, yeah, how did you sort of celebrate such a achievement?
Um, it didn't to the end. I guess it was like, I'm always rewinding here a little bit, aren't I, with the stories, but it was probably like 3K to go, and it was. I think someone had said this to me as well. Like, if you were told that you had to walk 130 kilometers in that time period, you'd feel better. But it's that last bit that's just like, there was a guy that was on an e-bike or something like that, and honestly, it felt like I would just wanted to just knock him off and grab his bike. Because it was so tempting, because I was like, I don't care anymore. I've done this much. I really don't care. But I'm the type of person that's like, no, no, no. I set up to do this. I'm going to finish the whole lot properly, because I know that I'd regret something like that. But anyway, that was kind of what the thoughts that were leading up, and then I just also crossing the line, because my team was always waiting for me, and they'd actually they'd waited for me at, I think, about the 3K mark, and they called me and they said, "Where are you? Are you with someone else? Have you teamed up with someone else?" And I said, "No, no, no, I'm still walking on my own." And they said, and they go, "No, we're oh, good, because we're here. We'll wait for you." And I'm like, "Really? Okay, cool." So and yeah, I got a bit of a cheeky comment from the other guy, and he was just like, "Oh yeah," he goes, "I've been waiting here a while." And I was just like, I can't do any more. I couldn't do any faster because of the pains and the blisters and stuff. It was just, I think I ended up having 12 blisters on each foot, and they were huge. They were just really, really big, and it just, to finish was just, it was good, and it was the elation of just finishing in that time was phenomenal to me. And just seeing my team, and then my friend that I'd stayed with, her, she doesn't drive a lot, and that was all these little things that really matter. She came along with her daughter, and left her husband at home. She's like, "I just drove off on him, and I wanted to see you at the finish line." And I was like, "Oh, and I try to get my kids to do a FaceTime so they could walk through with me. So there's a bit of a video of me doing that, and you can see me sort of, I guess, hobbling a little bit across the finish line. But it was later on when we sort of, how we said, I don't know if I really celebrated so much. To me, it was just about getting into recovery, because I was really, really scared of the aftermath and what was going to happen to me. And that was also a bit of a shock too, because it's sort of, the event, but then there's that afterwards. It sort of lasted probably another half a week of, so I went for a swim the next day, just a very, very light swim. And but because of all the blisters actually got infected, so I had to get some antibiotic cream for that. And there was, and also just the body was completely sort of seizing up. It's not used to that. And I remember going to my osteo on the Wednesday, and he goes, I go, "Look, I feel like I'm swelling a lot. There's a whole," and he goes, "Your body's gone through a lot. It's, you've put yourself through a lot of load here, incredible amount of load. This is just really, really normal. So, don't panic about that." And so I just kind of, I think the way I celebrated was I just went home and I met up with everybody. I met up with my support crew again and had breakfast with them the next day. I needed sleep, so that was where I did that and had a bit of dinner on the Saturday night, and just talking it out with everybody that was involved and helped and everything was just really beautiful to do that. And yeah, just having time with them all. I went to see my brother as well. Sort of did a big long pilgrimage home in the car though. Yeah, and worked through it that way.
And then I guess how long's it been now since when we're recording this? Been like 3 weeks, 4 weeks? How long ago was the event?
4 weeks to the
4 weeks ago.
day today.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
So obviously been a little bit of time to kind of, reflect and recover and, obviously still, just kind of getting back to baseline. But I guess looking towards the future, what's kind of the plan of attack for your hiking? Would you do another event like this? Is there something else you kind of got in your mind, or talk me through that?
Yeah, I've got it's a bit addictive, I think, this stuff now. Um, the thing that I always question is just having that support crew is a bit, that's the thing that sort of you know, can you lean in on the same people again? Maybe not, they might not want to do it or whatever. So that's something that's really important to think about. I probably want to do something a little bit more. I wouldn't mind doing Oxfam again. That would be unreal. But the body does need time to heal, and it's to see where your feet can take you, as Courtney DeWalter says, and other people who do these sorts of. I'm nowhere near that, but it's just, they do these sort of long events and that sort of stuff. That's the crazy bit about it, but it's also what your body can do and where your mind goes and everything. That to me was the take home from all of this, was like, wow, this is a real insight into me that I would never experienced unless I did this. So that's where you sort of get the bit of an addiction, because it's like, well, where else can I go? What else can I do? And where can that take me? And what else can I see? And learn about myself. For me, that would be, so yeah, maybe it'd be nice to do another event this year, but I just to sort of be able to keep training towards something, and that you're not. But in saying that as well, it's nice to not have the rigor of, and yeah, just the total rigor and totally having to focus because of an event or something. It's nice to, like, I went out on Friday and an impromptu walk, and I ended up in the dark again, and I didn't have a torch with me or whatever. And it was just so nice to go back out there and go through a river crossing and just do things just naturally. And it's like, but I can do this now, you know what I mean? Because I've done so much training and all that sort of stuff, and I'm not scared. I did those monsters in the dark that you talk about as well, Rowan. And like, there was a friend of mine had said, weren't you scared going down? I was like, no, I had the thought, but then I had to park it away. I pushed it away, and then it was just like, no, I'll get to where I'm going, because I'm out there on my own. But it was just, and that might be silly, but it's like, it was just fun to do that. And that's something that a good friend had said to me. He goes, make sure, he goes, where's the fun in all of this? You got to make sure that you have fun. Every time when I got too serious about something, make sure you just keep making this fun, So yeah, I think I certainly want to do stuff, but I just, and also, yeah, now it's time has passed as well, and the body's bringing up different issues. You do a certain distance now, a lot shorter distances, and it's like, oh, that's coming up, and like, because the body's just like, you've done all this to it, and managing that is really, really critical, and trying to say, okay, well, where do we strengthen this? And maybe I need some rehab in this place, or, I'll work on my different things. So yeah, it's just opened up a whole new world. So
Fantastic. How good. How good. And I guess the last sort of question I kind of ask you today before we wrap things up is, yeah, if anyone listening to this was considering some type of hiking challenge like this, whether it's 100Ks, 50Ks, one of these big sort of hiking challenges, what advice would you give them if they're in that sort of consideration stage?
Enlist people to help you. And like I said earlier on, it's that whole, whether it's summit strength or whatever it is, get your coach, get your community, and get, and then make the commitment to it. And that's what I loved about this program. And I'm not just giving lip service to this. It's just, I really mean that. It was because it worked around my lifestyle, and it wasn't so, it wasn't hardcore kind of like you have to do this and you have to do that. It was always like, well, just give this a go. It was gentle sort of, and then just sort of like, this is all we really need from you, Michelle, is to communicate, make a commitment to it. That's it. If you can do that, then we can work around the rest of it. And so I think those are the things that I would do. And don't pack too much crap like I did. I just had way too much stuff. Everyone's like, Michelle, you could feed her, you've got food for a week here. And I'm like, I know. And I ate nothing of it. I was just like, everybody, you can all have it. I just, yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, how good. How good. Well, Mish, it's been absolutely lovely having you on this podcast today. It's been so great just to hear about this journey, both before and during on the trail, because as I sort of said before we started this episode, there's so many people that I know listen to this podcast, and they consider these sort of things, and they consider they have it in the back of their head, something they really kind of want to do. And sometimes just hearing the journeys of people going through this and obviously overcoming so many ups and downs that you went through and all the different challenges life throws at your way. And just hearing this, I'm 100% sure this is going to inspire quite a few people to go out and do these things they've kind of been thinking about for a while. So I just want to say a big thank you for coming on. It's been an awesome episode. I really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you so much.
Thank you too, Ron, and to the whole team, Coach Andrea, yourself, everybody. I think I mentioned it in the Facebook post that it was someone had said to me, Michelle, it's like you've got more coaches than the Australian Olympic team, and it's like, it's true, but I couldn't have done it without all you guys. So thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Training for Trekking podcast. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes. So thanks for getting involved, and we'll see you on the next one.